Bonnet and the Durag Mafia are pissed with the leadership at Tuskegee University. They're upset about the campus's new dress code and code of conduct policy. Let's talk about it. Now, my OG followers already know, if you see me looking down, I'm looking at my notes. If you're not following the Black Death Society, please make sure to do so. This is a space in which pop culture money and real life meet. Tuskegee University is preparing to welcome in its largest incoming class of students that they've had in 32 years. And in preparation of this incoming class, the university is deciding to roll out some new policies that has everyone talking. Now, the school's new dress code that appears to have a lot of people up in arms prohibits the following in classrooms as well as in the cafeteria. In these areas, students are no longer allowed to wear bedroom shoes, bonnets, or durags. In addition, revealing clothes is also being banned in classrooms, dining rooms, as well as official university events, such as convocations. Last, the school is also enforcing a cell phone policy in which cell phones are to be turned off while students are in class. Also, students are requested to have a suit as well as dress shoes. Now, the president of Tuskegee University, Dr. Mark A. Brown, is basically saying that he is trying to usher in an era of transformation for the school that really focuses on workforce development and making sure that students are prepared for the world that they are about to enter. And to that, I say kudos to Dr. Brown. Now, I think that I am uniquely qualified to talk about this particular subject because I did graduate from the illustrious Clark Atlanta University. And when I say the standards were high back then, baby, they were high. Now, I did not graduate with the dinosaurs, okay, but I did graduate quite some time ago. And I will say that when I was in school, wearing bonnets and durags to class was not a thing. However, I do remember that Clark stressed a lot of things, and decorum being one of them. To me, when I read this policy, I didn't bat an eye because I'm thinking even when I went to school back in the early 2000s, we had suits on deck. We were going to class in full business attire, depending on what the class was. That was just the norm that was expected. Also, just little things were reinforced. I really use to this day as a professional. You always had a black business pen. You were always told to have a portfolio. You were always told to be prepared. And then once you feel that you're prepared, you need to make sure that you are prepared on top of that. And the one thing I can say as a graduate of an HBCU is that all of those lessons served me well. And I know that a lot of people are saying, well, we shouldn't do respectability politics. Who cares about? Let me tell you who cares. The world cares. They don't do that at PWIs, but we're not talking about PWIs. It's like comparing apples to oranges to the students that go to HBCUs. Though people may debate it into the hills, cry out. Those professors and administrators there really care about you. Know that the world that these particular students are entering is going to require, and you already know what I'm going to say, and as unfortunate as it may seem, they are going to require you to be twice, if not three times as good as your counterparts that go to other schools. So they're strict. They run a strict program. I always will say this. The best thing that I got from attending an HBCU, and it wasn't just the education and what I learned in the classroom, it was what I learned outside of the classroom. There is a reason why HBCUs produce some of the world's greatest Black leaders. It's because the expectation, although you may argue with your mama about it, the expectations for those students at those schools were extremely high because they wanted to make sure out of an act of love that those students were prepared for the vigors of the world that they were about to enter. I'm with President Mark Brown over there. Kudos to you, Mark Brown. Don't listen to the social media chatter. You know what you're doing. And this is signed from a HBCU alum. Shout out to my Panthers. I'm always representing for them. But as always, I want you to weigh in on this debate. Do you think that what Tuskegee is requiring is too much from their students, or do you think that the leadership is right on track? Sound off in the comments. If you found value in this post, please make sure to like as well as share, and don't forget to follow for more Desk Talk.
Tuskegee University is updating their dress code policy by banning durags and bonnets and bedroom shoes as well. But they're doing all of this under the guise of helping students prepare for the workforce, right? And the thing is that I would like to argue that do-rags are needed for the workforce because I'm trying to look nice at the workforce. And to do that, I need my do-rag and my bonnet in between time. Because what does that do for me? It locks in moisture, maintains my waves, and it protects my hair from frizz. My phone was dying, but I'm still going to get my shit off. My point is that I personally think that black students will learn better if they're comfortable. And one way that you can make them feel comfortable is not have them stressed out about their hair while they're in school, because they will need that kind of lack of pressure. So this way they can take that into the workforce when their hair is nice. And in the past year, me personally, I've been learning about women's health. I've literally been learning about EDS, adenomyosis, endometriosis, Hashimoto's disease, PCOS, now being PMOS. I've literally talked about HPV and so many other things like the pink tax, or how women have so much unpaid labor within marriage. And I'm teaching this all within a do-rag. Now, between you and me, these niggas are tripping, but I understand. It's all rooted in anti-blackness and respectability politics, because when you really think about it, who are we really preparing for?
However you feel about Tuskegee University banning bonnets, durags, and other piece of clothing is how you feel, but respectfully, I'm gonna need some of y'all to shut up. If you have never taken a 7 a.m., 8 a.m. class on a Monday, close your mouth. Especially the people who never took a single step on a college campus. Y'all are voicing y'all opinion, and y'all have never even experienced what it's like to be in college. The main thing that's irritating me is that y'all do not think this is rooted in racism, and yes, it is that serious. And I don't care that it's an HBCU, because everything that black people embody and enjoy, y'all view it as an eyesore. Yes, even some black people view things that represent blackness as a whole as ghetto and unprofessional. They only view it as unprofessional when it's black people. They don't actually care what people wear to class. And as somebody who went to a PWI, I can guarantee that they don't care what people wear to class. Let's take a 5-minute scroll on Florida State campus and count how many pajamas, bonnets, do-rags, shorts shorter than, we see no less than 1,000 people, I bet. And no one ever views that as unprofessional. I wonder why. Because for some reason, when it's a PWI, it's just students going to class. But when it's an HBCU, it's unprofessional. It's just clothes. If clothes actually mattered, black people wouldn't have been treated the way they've been treated for hundreds of years, because we've been dressing nice. I'm talking about 5, 6-piece suits just to go to the corner store. Y'all are spewing racist rhetoric and don't even realize it, because to y'all, for some reason, black people always have this obligation to please the white man. And I'm telling you now, once everybody else get on board with Tuskegee, the next thing they're going to target is hair, because to be professional, you always have to have your hair pulled back. I've heard this before, but y'all let me know what y'all think. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.
You are judged based on your appearance before anything else. People look at you and decide what level of respect to give you the moment they size you up, not based on your accent, on your degree, your personality, or your qualifications. It's unfair, it's unfortunate, but it's true. But this isn't equally applied to everyone across the board in society. As black people, we've all been told by our parents and elders that we have to be twice as good, work twice as hard, and be overqualified to compete with white mediocrity, and it's very true. But there needs to be nuance with this discussion as it relates to shifts in culture, corporate realities, and expectations in the current decade, and a bit of self-reflection for those of us spearheading these cultural conversations, and how some of our talking points and soundboarding could be laden with elitism and themes inherited by socioeconomic disparities within the black community itself. In my time at a PWI, I watched white kids walk into 8 a.m. lectures wearing yesterday's pajamas, wet hair, flip-flops in the rain, or with dirty bare feet, and nobody batted an eye. Nobody pulled them aside to give them a speech about the decay of academic decorum, and most importantly, the entire white population on campus wasn't suddenly assigned a collective moral deficit because a couple of freshmen couldn't be bothered to put on pants with a zipper. So why is casualness viewed as an innocent privilege for them, but when a black student puts on a bonnet or a pair of sweatpants to walk to the dining hall, it's treated as an existential threat to the race? If you've been following the conversation around Tuskegee University implementing a campus-wide dress code, banning bonnets, durags, slippers, and loungewear in academic spaces, you know this isn't just about clothes. We need to talk about why we are still holding on to survival tactics from 1881 and how respectability politics are keeping us trapped in a loop of self-policing. Let's establish the baseline first. White institutions grant white students the presumption of competence. When a white student rolls out of bed and into a lecture hall looking disheveled, the culture will read is they were up all night studying or they were just focused on the work. Their intellect is separate from their aesthetic. They're allowed to exist as individuals. For black students, historically and currently, we are saddled with the burden of representation. The belief, whether spoken out loud or buried in institutional policy, is that every single one of us is an ambassador for the entire demographic. So when an HBCU steps in to police items like bonnets or durags, it is operating from a defense mechanism. It's an attempt to sanitize blackness to make it palatable for a world that hasn't earned that authority over us. We are essentially saying, if we dress perfectly enough, white society will finally give us our dignity. And history has proven over and over again, you cannot dress your way out of systemic racism. To understand why Tuskegee specifically defaults to this, you have to look at its roots. Booker T. Washington founded Tuskegee on a philosophy of industrial training, self-reliance, and flawless physical presentation as a shield against post-Reconstruction violence. In 1881, looking pristine was quite literally a matter of physical survival. But what happens when a survival tactic turns into an internal dogma? Like I said, I fully agree that dressing for the part you want, the respect you desire, and the goal you wish to achieve is how society as a whole functions. And it's something I have incorporated into my life since I was in high school. This was heavily instilled to me by my parents, who themselves dress up for everything from going to the grocery store to playing golf. My house was always a fashion show of who could outdo each other. And that granted me the ability to navigate the world in a very specific way. And I'm acutely aware of that privilege. But what about those who don't have that access, who didn't have that foundation or that example? We have to be brutally honest with ourselves about the classism and elitism within our own community. A lot of us, myself included, had to actively unpack tendencies that were drilled into us by family. Don't walk out the house looking like that. You don't want to act like those people. It's born out of protection, sure. It's rooted in a deep anxiety about our social standing. When we enforce these strict rules on college campuses, we completely ignore economic accessibility. College is often the first time a young person leaves their hometown, experiences new environments, or navigates independence. Enforcing rigid aesthetic standards without acknowledging that students come from vastly different socioeconomic backgrounds, which leads to specific societal norms, isn't mentorship, it's intra-community policing. The irony of this entire debate is the professional landscape has completely shifted, but our institutional ideas of success are still stuck in 1995. I have friends who are managing directors, vice presidents, tech founders, and executives in aviation and finance. You know what they're wearing every day at work? Hoodies, sneakers, and Lululemon. The uniform of modern power and extreme wealth in the 2020s is function and comfort. The era of the mandatory three-piece suit of the sole marker of authority is dead. By teaching young black students that they have to conform to stiff, antiquated standards of dress just to be taken seriously, we are preparing them for a corporate structure that simply no longer exists. We're teaching them to submit to respectability standards that their white peers are actively discarding. Anyone who is attaining higher education will innately know and understand that they cannot wear sweats and a bonnet to their corporate job. In the same way that white students know that they can't show up with wet hair and flip-flops and dirty feet in the rain. To insinuate that policies need to be shifted in order to ensure this is understood based on the actions of a few is where the problem lies. Culture evolves, the world changes. Just because there's an aspect of modern culture you personally don't align with doesn't mean it's not a part of the culture. Bonnets and durags are hair protection. They are functional, cultural items. To label them as inherently wrong or improper is to accept the white supremacist premise that natural hair care is something shameful that needs to be hidden away behind closed doors. If we keep relying on antiquated ideas of culture, of what is culturally acceptable, without delving into why we deem certain things about ourselves unacceptable, we will never move forward. Polishing blackness for the white gaze while white people enjoy their freedom to exist carelessly isn't progress. It's just white supremacy working through us. As someone who's a thought leader and spearheads conversations representing the black community and diaspora, I challenge myself daily to unpack ideas of what is acceptable and why I think things are acceptable when it comes to black people. I come from a very specific background. My family is very conservative. They're fundamentalist Christian Pentecostal people. I grew up in an upper middle class neighborhood and family. So my thoughts and the way I've been socialized come from that. A lot of what I was taught was rooted in what makes blackness palatable for whiteness. And the sooner we can be honest about how our different upbringings impact our ideas about blackness is the sooner we can be better as a community. Stay black, stay blessed.
Have you guys heard about this this is something new that just popped up for me. Very interesting debate that's going on here on social media about a historically black university in Tuskegee, Alabama. So, Tuskegee University in the 2026-2027 school year, they're putting out a new policy that's getting people in uproars. It's not the fact that they're burning sleepwear, slippers, what is that? The revealing outfits or anything like that. It's the bonnets and durags that they're going up in flames about on social media that Tuskegee is banning, along with everything else. Right? So they're banning this for the cafeteria and the classroom. They 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 want students to wear professional attire when they go into business meetings, professional events, and things like that. Only one article said that it's mandatory that they have a business suit, but that's all I saw. So, the president, Dr. Mark Brown, he's the 10th president of Tuskegee University, and Tuskegee has been here for 125 years. That says something. So he says that he doesn't want students to not have a good time at Tuskegee and ruin their experience. He wants them to enjoy it. He just wants to go back to how it was founded when Booker T. Washington was the president at that time in 1881, where everybody was dressing very professional, and he said this will, um, what did he say? He said that this will prepare students for the workforce, outside the workforce, so they can get a job and everything. So the reason he put this policy in place was because the upcoming fall year, in August, I think it's in August. I don't know how Alabama works, but they said that it is the largest incoming freshman in 32 years. That's a long time. And that's the biggest class they got right now. So he wants to make sure that students are equipped to know how to dress and how to act, and that the universities are the ones to educate the students about the future workforce. They say that Tuskegee offers 30 professional certificates that you don't have to pay for. I don't know, but that's what one article said. And then there's more coming. Now he said that they will no longer be permitted to use cell phones in class because students will scroll on their phones, watch a video, or just send a quick text like, hey, mom, I'll be out of, school, whatever. So now they're getting stricter with that. And they're also getting strict with the dress code too, because they said that if students come to class with any of that on or anything on their head, the professor could tell them to leave for the day. If they have their cell phones out, the professor could take it and confiscate the cell phone. Like, it just reminds me of high school, but I guess they want the students to focus, and they said that attendance will play a big part this year because attendance is a part of academic success. So they will see who's coming to class and who's not, and who's serious and who's not. So they want, so the college, so Tuskegee wants the students to focus on career readiness. Tuskegee students will be required to complete internships, identify professional certifications, connect to their career goals, and develop a resume. All of this before they graduate that college. So, I mean, there's a lot of people on both sides say that this is anti-blackness. They just want us to be white. And then a lot of people are saying these PWIs. Girl, I didn't even know what a PWI is until I looked it up. Predominantly white institutions. And how they could just come any way they want and nothing is said. And most of these PWIs are public and Tuskegee is private. So they really can't tell you how to dress since it's public. I'm guessing. But oh God, how can I put this? If you just don't like the dress code at Tuskegee, then just don't go there. Just don't go there because, like, I agree. Like, I took I take 7 a.m. classes before, and I never went to school in my pajamas or with the bonnet on before. Just to go to class. I mean, it's not going to stop you from learning or anything, but, you know, don't y'all get hot with that on your head in the afternoon? But a lot of people are saying, you try to control black people. You don't like the way black people do this and do that with their hair. And it's, and you try to say it's unprofessional, but we're not going to a professional setting. We're going to a classroom, which I agree on top of that. But you have to look at it like they just want to prepare you for the real world because nobody in the real world goes to work in pajamas or a bonnet or very revealing clothes and shoe slippers unless they own their own, practice, or if the owner says, hey, this is the attire, you can wear whatever the hell you want, right? But I guess they just want professionalism on campus. But a lot of people are saying no matter what black people do, black people will never get accepted, which is true. But you have to understand Tuskegee is private. It's not public. They could do whatever they want. But hell, what do I know? I'm just a talking head.
So this is about to be an unpopular opinion, but the conversation about Tuskegee's dress code isn't actually about bonnets and durags. It's about anti-blackness, respectability politics, and one question I don't think anybody is asking right now. Why don't most PWIs have these same kinds of dress codes? Let's start there. Some people support the policy because they think it teaches professionalism. Others see something deeper, like myself, because when the clothing that is being discussed is bonnets and durags, items that are specifically connected to Black hair care, it no longer feels culturally neutral. And here's what history teaches us. Black people have never been discriminated against because of what we wore. Black people in their Sunday best were denied civil rights. Black professionals in tailored suits still experience racism today. Changing our clothes has never ended racism or anti-blackness. This is where the respectability politics enters the chat. Respectability politics says if we just present ourselves the right way, we'll be treated better. But history tells us that is only partly true. I absolutely believe that we should be teaching Black children and young adults how to navigate professional spaces. The question is, are we teaching them how to code switch when necessary, or are we teaching them that parts of Black culture are inherently unprofessional? Those are two totally different lessons. And here's the part that I absolutely cannot ignore. Tuskegee says that this policy is about workforce development. All right, then why don't most PWIs have campus-wide dress codes banning bonnets, pajamas, slippers, durags? And most PWIs, the students are treated like adults. Dress expectations usually exist for clinical programs, internships, presentations, or formal events, not everyday campus life. So if the goal is workforce preparation, why is it only enforced at HBCUs and not at PWIs? That's the conversation I think we should be happening. I'm curious where y'all land on this though. Can the HBCU uphold these types of professional standards without reinforcing respectability politics? Or do you think that dress codes are necessary preparation for the real world? Let's talk about it. Okay, bye.
Wearing a bonnet or a durag is not preventing you from learning the things that you need to know in class. Restricting certain items that only targets the Black community, mind you, at a HBCU, is literally another way of telling Black students who attend an HBCU for an HBCU experience. Let's think about what HBCU stands for a second. It's reminding them that they need to assimilate in the world and that their culture is not accepted based on the stereotypes that were placed on us as a community by people who does not look like us. So it only shows that even in Black spaces, Black people are still not safe to be Black. Anybody that feels like wearing a bonnet is ghetto or unprofessional, or wearing a do-rag is ghetto or unprofessional, is simply only projecting onto Black people, are simply dismissing the fact that this is a cultural thing. There's a reason why you don't see white people, Indian people, or any other race wearing do-rags and bonnets. These things were specific for Black people to protect our hair or cover our hair when we don't want to wear our natural hair out. I don't understand the problem. I've never seen other cultural groups being stopped from wearing their cultural garments. So why is it only Black Americans? And for the Black people in agreement, you should be ashamed of yourself because you don't even understand the assimilated mindset that you have based on the standards of other people who does not look like you. And I just feel like it's a little tap dancery. It's giving a little coonish. However, I digress.
I personally don't feel the responsibility of Black representation politics, so I'm very big on you can wear whatever you want to wear. That has nothing to do with me. I don't believe in blanket dress codes because I don't really feel as though that they teach what you think that they're teaching. If you did want to enforce a dress code, you enforce a dress code at very specific times. For example, you're presenting in class. You need to be in business attire. There's a guest lecturer. I would like y'all to look a little bit more dressed up today. You're going to a job fair on campus. Let's be in business attire. There are times where you can teach people when and where, but blanket dress codes don't teach that. They just teach that one look is very unprofessional and ugly and you should never be seen in it. And then the other one is being praised. And I don't believe in that, personally.